What's up YouTube, Dao here from Z4 Games, and today I'm bringing you a bat crazy deck list for Magician Drytrons, or Drytron Magician, or Drytron Chaos, or Dark Drytron. Entirely up to you on what you would like to call it. The idea or the concept is taking Dark Magician ritual focused, mixing them with Drytrons, which are probably the best ritual summoned engine around, and combining them together to produce this madness that I'm about to show you. So, with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe so you do not miss out on any more upcoming content from the channel, and you get to enjoy these crazy ideas that we like to present to you guys as well for you to go forward with in a bit of fun. So, with all of that out of the way, let's get diving straight into the deck list for, of course, the Dark Drytrons. For the monsters, we of course play triple Magician of Chaos, followed by one Magician of Black Chaos Max, alongside triple Magician's Rod, a single copy of Dark Magician, and a single copy of Red Eyes Black Dragon. For the Drytrons, we play triple Drytron Alpha, double Drytron Gamma, double Drytron Zeta, and a single Drytron Delta. For the spells, we play triple Soul Servant, triple Dark Magical Circle, double Preparation of Rites, single copy of Chaos Form, single copy of Secrets of Dark Magic, single Red Eyes Fusion, and a single Dark Magic Inheritance. For the Drytron spells, we play triple Cyber Emergency, triple Drytron Nova, double Drytron Fafnir, and a single Drytron Matonis. Finally, for the traps, we play 3 Eternal Soul. For the extra, we play 1 The Dark Magicians, 1 Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, 1 Artemis the Magistus Moon Maiden, 1 Link Karibo, 1 Crossheap, alongside 1 Predaplant Verta Anaconda, 1 Nightmare Phoenix, 1 IP Masquerina, 1 Topologic Trispania or Nightmare Unicorn, alongside 1 Selene, Queen of Master Magicians, 1 Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos, 1 Appaloosa, Bow of the Goddess, 1 Axis Code Talker, 1 Mech Knight Crusader Avramax, and finally 1 Underworld, Goddess of the Closed Worlds. So now to go over the cards in detail, we start off with our main core card, and that is Magician of Chaos. As we are using the Drytron engine, you've got to be very careful because Dark Magician can't be consistently looped, whereas Magician of Chaos can because he is a ritual monster. So all you need to do is successfully summon Magician of Chaos once, and you can keep looping him with, of course, Eternal Soul, as he treats himself as Dark Magician in the grave or on the field, meaning that he synergizes with Eternal Soul, and Circle alongside the other ritual spell that we play in the deck on top of that. Plus, it also means that your Drytrons are going to have eternal fodder as well, because the Drytrons can then tribute the Magician of Chaos, or technically Dark Magician, on the board, put it to the graveyard, and then you can revive the Magician of Chaos with Eternal Soul, triggering Circle to banish, triggering Magician of Chaos to pop. So you're basically utilizing the ability of Magician of Chaos to loop itself as much as possible after only ritual summoning him once. After that point, you don't need to keep ritual summoning him, because unless you want multiples on the board, once you've summoned him correctly once, you just keep looping him with Eternal Soul, and then you're going to be able to constantly banish, pop, and give yourself ritual fodder for your Drytron cards, whether they be in hand or grave. The other ritual monster we play is Magician of Black Chaos Max. Now, the reason we play this is through the natural, climb of Dark Magician, you do have the ability to drop this during your opponent's turn with the quick play Magician of Magic, Secret of Dark Magic. Well, I'll get there eventually. So the idea is that you only really want to drop this using Secret of Dark Magic, and then you can bring it back with the Drytron Matonis to then tribute itself to mean that you're protected through monster effects for your turn. But the idea is that you're going to want to drop it. Now, the only downside with the Secret of Dark Magic is it does specifically require Dark Magician, which means you have to use Magician of Chaos on the field because he doesn't treat as Dark Magician in the hand. which is absolutely fine, because the route that we kind of want to go with this is, if we're not using Magician of Chaos as link fodder after we have successfully summoned him to then bring him back with Eternal Soul, you're going to leave him on the board. Now straight away, the best thing about the Drytrons is, because they're all level 1s, straight away using Magician of Chaos plus a Drytron gives you the level 8 you require for the Magician of Black Chaos Max. On top of that, Magician of Black Chaos Max just needs you to tribute one monster. So it would allow you to tribute your Verte Anaconda, it will allow you to tribute any remaining Drytrons that are left on the field, and that will in turn lock your opponent out of using monster effects. Now obviously, he's not as good going second, he is a very good deterrent going second, but after you summoned him, that's pretty much it. You shouldn't need to bring him back unless you want to bring him back with the Drytrons, which again, you just use 2 Drytrons plus the Matonis, and that's going to give you back your Magician of Black Chaos Max to then trigger during your turn to protect you for your future plays following up. Again, you can cut it out completely if you totally want to. I think we're on a 41 card deck at the moment, and it is the Chaos Engine that I have been playing around with that I really want to try and fit into the deck. But to fit into the deck, you put it up to like 45 cards, and that's where it gets a little bit tricky, because you're playing with lights and darks. Obviously, your Magicians are the darks, your Drytrons are the lights, and then the best thing about Chaos Space and the Chaos Creator is, because the Drytrons can't be normal summoned or set, you can spin them back into deck. Now obviously you can't search them with Chaos Space because they're not level 4 or between 4 and 8, but you do have the ability of spinning them back into the deck, recycling your deck, and off you go. For the penultimate cards of the Magician side, you've got Triple Magician's Rod. Of course, this searches out Circle, Soul Servant, Secrets of Dark Magic Inheritance, Eternal Soul. The main card you want to be searching off of Magician's Rod is, of course, Eternal Soul, because that then lets you loop your Magician of Chaos Max. Your Magician of Chaos. Now, of course, the Drytrons are going to be able to search you out the Ritual Monster and the Ritual Spell, so you just need to then get the remaining fodder that you might need. Now, alternatively, what you could do with this particular deck, when the Drytrons are searching out the Ritual Spell, is play Advanced Ritual Art. But the reason we're not doing that is because we ideally want to be using Red Eyes Fusion to send the Dark Magician. And as you're about to see now, we only play 1 Dark Magician and 1 Red Eyes. Purely because, again, in the graveyard, your Magician of Chaos Max counts as a Dark Magician. So what you ultimately could do is you could use Magical Eyes Fusion. By using Magical Eyes Fusion, that's where the Chaos Engine comes in more importantly, because you need dragons in the graveyard. And the idea is that through Advanced Ritual Art, through just general discard fodder as well, you would put Dark Magician into the graveyard, or you put a Magician of Chaos Magician of Chaos into the graveyard by tributing it with a Drytron, and he counts as Dark Magician. So then what you do is you have the ability of activating Magical Eyes Fusion, and as long as you've got a dragon in the graveyard, you can then make your Dragoon. But the route we've gone here is absolutely fine, because then what you do is you set up your future plays for your Magician of Chaos, because you set up your Chaos form in the graveyard with a Dark Magician, and then you can banish it. Keeping in mind that Chaos Creator can spin back Dark Magician should you want to. It can also spin back Red Eyes as well. But we've tried to keep this as close to 40 as possible. It's a little bit rocky at the moment. I'm still figuring out some little kinks and tricks and little different takeaways from the deck. But it still works out really, really nicely. And there's a little bit of synergy between the two decks. And that's why I've tried to make this go more ritual focused than more Dark Magician, Dragoon, Turbo focused. So that's it for the Magician cards of the Drytron Chaos deck, or the Drytron Magician deck. For the Drytrons themselves, of course, you pretty much are just using these for utilities, for bodies on the board, and everything like that. So you've got Triple Fervent. So this is the one that searches you out a Ritual Monster. Then, of course, you've got Gamma. This one brings back a Drytron from the grave. Just gives you 2 materials. So keep in mind, straight away, a successfully summoned Gamma gives you 2 materials. That's straight away. That's Verte into Dragoon. That's IP Masquerena. That's even Cross Sheep. And Cross Sheep actually does a lot in this deck, because the idea is that through the Drytrons, you're searching out the pieces you need. You're then going to make, of course, Cross Sheep. You then Ritual Summon your Magician of Chaos, and that in turn is going to allow you to draw 2, ditch 2. So then if you're drawing 2 cards and ditching 2 Drytron cards, you're putting them in the graveyard, which is absolutely fine, because they're better off being in the graveyard than they are in the hand, because they can then just utilise themselves from the grave. And then, of course, we've got the double Zeta to search out your ritual spells, and the 1 Delta Atlas. Now, like I said, we only actually have 2 official ritual spells in the form of Chaos form and, of course, the Matonis. Now, the Matonis can loop itself by reducing a Drytron by 1,000, which again is perfectly fine, because you're always going to need to use 2 Drytrons to use Matonis to Ritual Summon Magician of Chaos. Searching out the Chaos form is always going to be good as a follow-up play once you've put Dark Magician in the graveyard through Red Eyes Fusion, because you don't want to be, you won't be able to summon Dragoon any other way unless you do that. You can put Magical Eyes Fusion into the deck. I've currently not got it in there because I've gone for the consistent Red Eyes Fusion play. But if you wanted to, you could technically take out Red Eyes Fusion and Red Eyes. You just need to consistently be able to get dragons to the grave. So that's it for the Drytron Monsters again. Delta, the one that I didn't mention, is you reveal a ritual spell or monster in the hand and then draw one card. So again, it's very specific because you need to have the ritual monster which you're only playing 4 of, or you need to play a ritual spell which you're only playing 2 of. So Delta could technically be cut, but just for those odd times that you do get the ability to draw an additional card, it can be very, very useful, because then technically, if you can't count Cross Sheep as well, plus your Soul Servant, you have the ability to technically draw 4 cards. Now, obviously, control cards you've got very few of. The control cards pretty much come in the form of Eternal Soul and Dark Magical Circle, which is what you kind of want to set yourself up for, because the idea is that during your opponent's turn, you would have liked to either have the ability of IP Masquerena linking off into something, or at the base minimum, or on the best board is Verte Anaconda with a Dragoon plus your IP Masquerena with a Dark Magical Circle and Eternal Soul and a successfully summoned Magician of Chaos in the graveyard. Because then what you do is during your opponent's turn, you've got IP Masquerena, which can have the ability to go into an Avramax, can go into a 2-negate Appaloosa, can even go into a Goddess of the Underworld, plus a Dragoon with a negate, and then you've got the ability of reviving a Magician of Chaos, which will then trigger a Dark Magical Circle for a banish, and then its own effect for a pop. So you're giving yourself as much disruption as you possibly can, while using the Drytrons as pure fodder to get you there. For the spells for Dark Magicians, of course, we're playing triple Soul Servant. Now, before I get onto Soul Servant, a lot of you be like, well, where's Magician Souls? Well, the thing with Magician Souls is you can't successfully bring back Dark Magician because you're playing Drytrons. You can't summon itself because, again, you're playing Drytrons. The only use that Souls has is the ability to revive the Magician of Chaos from the graveyard while it has been successfully summoned, because it brings back a Dark Magician, and obviously Magician of Chaos counts as Dark Magician in the graveyard. So the consistency factor of Souls was quite low, which is why I've kind of found the ability of just being able to take it out. In this particular build, you don't need it, because it actually clashes more with your deck than it does actually help your deck. So ultimately, apart from it becoming a consistent Monster Reborn, which is what Eternal Soul is going to be for you, there's no real need to play it. Now, obviously, if you have it and you want to, then you've got to find the space. At the moment, and the reason I haven't put the Chaos Engine in, is it's very tight for space in the main deck. You've got a lot of spell cards that are consistency cards, in the form of Soul Servant, in the form of Cyber Emergency, in the form of Drytron Fafnir. They're all cards that are going to consistently get you to the pieces that you need, which means you've got a lot of deck fin at your fingertips, and Soul just wasn't one that was going to be successful enough, because if you don't have a Magician of Chaos in the graveyard, you're not going to be able to activate Magician Souls. The only time you'll be able to utilize Magician Souls is you'd have to normal summon it, and then use Magician Souls effect to get rid of spells and traps to draw more cards, which is ultimately doable, but then it's not really utilizing Magician Souls at its max potential. So that's why Magician Souls isn't in the build. Triple Soul Servant, again, a little bit more specific on this one. You're always going to be able to get the draws, because Magician of Chaos is Dark Magician on the field and in the grave. Plus, after you've activated Red Eyes Fusion, you would have put Dark Magician in the grave to allow you to draw 1 card. Now, obviously, if you want to be drawing more cards, that's where you put Oracle Mana in. But ultimately, again, that's just an additional brick that wasn't really needed for this concept. The idea of a Soul Servant is, again, successfully resolving Soul Servant, because you're not always guaranteed to resolve the Red Eyes Fusion, was always going to get a draw 1. So what you've got to do is you've got to be very, very careful in the route that you want to play, because the idea is that you want to use your Drytrons to get to your ritual pieces, then link the Drytron pieces together for a Cross Sheep, then use the ritual plays to successfully summon out the ritual monster. That will then allow you to draw 2, ditch 2. That then allows you to trigger Soul Servant. Soul Servant could then, because you've got a Dark Magician on the board, let you draw an additional card, which can help extend your combo even further. And then as long as you get another Drytron on the board, you use Drytron plus Magician of Chaos to go into your Verte Anaconda. Your Verte Anaconda can then summon out Dragoon. And as long as you've then got an Eternal Soul and a Circle set through all of the 3 draws, not to mention a 4th draw if you successfully resolve Atlas, you're then going to be able to have the ability of, during your opponent's turn, bring back Magician of Chaos, and pretty much ultimately end up with 3 interruptions. So it gives you a bit more to burn through your deck. If you wanted to put in that additional Dark Magician Gale or your Oracle Mana, then you can do, and that will ultimately let you get draw 2 off the Soul Servant. Sorry for my voice, guys. As you can tell, it's like going croaky. And then, of course, you've got triple Dark Magical Circle. Now, off of the back of this, you want to be able to stack your Chaos Form. You want to be able to mainly stack your Secret of Dark Magic, your Dark Magic Inheritance as well. Keep in mind that Dark Magic Inheritance is incredibly important because you actually have a lot of cards. Now, apart from the Matonis and apart from the Soul Servant, all your other spell cards, once they've been activated, they serve no purpose being in the grave, apart from maybe giving a counter to Selene, but you should already, by the time you summon Selene, have that set up and good to go in abundance. So being able to actually search out your Dark Magic Inheritance or resolving a Dark Magic Inheritance during like, not so much the end phase, but like the end of main phase 2, will get you that missing piece that you might need. So that will get you the Eternal Soul if you don't have it. It will get you the Ritual Spell if you don't have it. It will get you the Dark Magical Circle if you don't have it. It will even get you your Secrets of Dark Magic if you don't have it. So you've got a lot of ways of consistently getting to the spells and traps you need for the Dark Magicians, and that is why it gives you a bit more utility and a bit more plays. So Dark Magical Circle has plenty of targets, and you know, you need this in your back row alongside an Eternal Soul to constantly get 2 pops, a Banish and a pop. And then for the other spells, of course, we've got 2 Preparation of Rites. Could be 3, but considering we've only got 1 target, what makes this so good is it allows you to loop back the Chaos Form. It allows you to loop back the Matonis without actually using the Matonis effect. And it's very, very good to kind of keep you looping. Now, obviously the Chaos Form Banish effect is only going to be once unless you play the Chaos Form to put it all back. But other than that, you're still going to be able to get the Chaos Form back to the hand, and all you need to do is tribute monsters from the hand and or banish from the graveyard whose total levels equal. So after you've used a Magician of Chaos, like I said, once you've got one successfully summoned, all the others can technically become dead fodder. But if you do play it correctly, what you can do is you can use the one that has been successfully summoned already as the fodder to summon a second one, and then that allows you to use your Eternal Soul to bring back the other one, which can instigate Link 2 plays, it can instigate Rank 7 plays, or it can just instigate the ability of having 2 Magician of Chaos on the board that are both treated as Dark Magician and have both been successfully summoned. So that's what Preparation of Rites will offer you by being able to loop back your Chaos Form after you've searched it off of your Magician's Rod. Then for the other one-offs, of course, we've got the 1 Secrets of Dark Magic, the 1 Red Eyes Fusion, and the 1 Dark Magic Inheritance. So I've already talked about Dark Magic Inheritance. The Secrets of Dark Magic, 9 times out of 10, you only want to use this to ritual summon the Magician of Black Chaos Max. Now, obviously, if you're not going to make that play and you're like, I don't really like that play, I don't think it's consistent enough, or what if I don't get to go first, then Magician of Black Chaos Max is a card you can easily cut without worries. But keep in mind, the Drytrons just make it more consistent, because in the past, when you had Rod, in the previous ritual build that I did, you didn't have a way of getting into Black Chaos Max consistently apart from going through Manju. Whereas in this build, what you can do is you can use the Drytrons to get you the Magician of Black Chaos Max. You then use the Magician's Rod to get you your Secrets of Dark Magic. You then use the Drytron plus the Magician's Rod to go into a Verte Anaconda. You then, as long as you've got the correct levels, fodder, for your Magician of Black Chaos Max, which technically, if your opponent was to turn off your Dragoon during your turn, you will have the ability to kind of do that as long as you get the Dark Magician to successfully resolve the Secret of Dark Magic. But then that will, of course, allow you to do that. Alternatively, Secret of Dark Magic is your only other route to get into the Dark Magicians. So you've got 2 kind of routes of going with this, and it really comes down to your personal preference. Red Eyes Fusion, of course, is Red Eyes Fusion. Not much more needs to be said about that. But if you wanted to cut this and Red Eyes, then you could put in a Magical Eyes Fusion as well. And then, of course, Dark Magic Inheritance, just like I said, banish 2 spells that are no longer needed to you. Red Eyes Fusion, Secrets of Dark Magic, Cyber Emergency, anything like that. Get the missing piece that you need in the form of Circle or Eternal Soul. So that's it for the Dark Magician spells. Moving on to the Drytron spells as follows. Again, the Drytron spells pretty much just utilize consistency and they use your search power. So that's why you're playing triple Cyber Emergency. This just searches you out any Drytron monster. So if you wanted to, you could play the Drytron Ritual monsters. I kind of really wanted to play their big boss monster. Again, I just didn't really have the space for it in the form of the Draconoids. I just didn't really have the space. You can bump it up to 42 if you want to, but my first cards that I'm trying to fit in is the Chaos Engine. Then, of course, you've got your Drytron Novas, basically count as another copy of any of the Drytron monsters, and as long as you open up 1 Drytron in this, or Fafnir, and a Drytron, you're going to go into Nova. Nova is then going to be able to be any Drytron monster you need. So your Thurbin if you need the Ritual monster, your Zeta if you need the spell, your Gamma if you need the monsters on board, or your Alpha, your Delta if you've got the ability to get that additional draw. Then of course we've got double Fafnir. Just add any Drytron spell, so it gives you your Nova or your Metonish Drytron. But what a lot of people actually forget as well is if a monster is normal or special summon face up while you control a Drytron monster, except during a dash state, you can reduce that monster's level by 1 per 1,000 of its current attack. So you can only do it once per turn. But the idea is that even during your opponent's turn, if they rely on level, so let's, for example, say Virtual World, or even in the form of Golden Lords, if they're trying to go for the Gustav Max overlay, you triggering Fafnir, and they forget about it, that means they can't go for the Gustav Max play. It also means that if you're reducing like the Lulu by 2, they then completely lose their synchro plays of using Lulu, and they'll really, really struggle. So sometimes that can come into effect, and it's just something you need to remember that you've actually got the ability to utilize. And then of course the Drytron, like loopable ritual spell, as long as you're using machines, you can ritual from the grave as well. Absolutely nuts, bananas, crazy, such a good ritual spell. And if you're playing Drytrons, you need to be playing this card. So that's again it for the Drytron spells. Very short lineup. There's not really a lot more that you need. All of these just search your pieces, become your pieces, and just increase the overall consistency of that element of the deck. So now we're going to move into obviously the traps. We're only playing triple Eternal Soul, just because of how important it is. Like I said, the Eternal Soul is there. You need to see Eternal Soul. And one little tech that I'll show you when we get to the extra deck, or mention now, and then show you when I get to the extra deck, is if you've got, for example, IP Masquerena on the board, what you can do, as long as you've got another monster on the board as well, keep that in mind, is you can go, and your opponent tries to activate, I don't know, Cosmic Cyclone, Twin Twist, or anything like that, what you can then do is you can actually trigger Eternal Soul to bring back your Magician of Chaos, but you would trigger the effect of IP Masquerena as well. So you'd go IP Masquerena, I've got to remember the chain link. I think it's IP Masquerena is chain link 2 after the MST or Cosmic Cyclone, and then Eternal Soul is chain link 3. 3 resolves, brings back the Magician of Chaos. IP Masquerena will then resolve to link with the board, and that will then trigger to go the MST to pop the Eternal Soul. Then obviously on a new chain, the Eternal Soul will then trigger to nuke the board. So if IP Masquerena has managed to go into, I believe it's, you could go into something like Underworld of the Goddess, or you can just pretty much take away your opponent's utility cards. You can take away your opponent's, but on the new chain, obviously, you can then go into like Phoenix or Unicorn and trigger the effects to then spin a card as well, so that even though your opponent has ultimately got rid of your Eternal Soul, you do have the ability to still interact. So it's not the end of the world, it's not great, but you've got to try and turn your biggest strength and your biggest weakness into something utilizable for yourself. Moving on to the extra deck, of course, we've got the Dark Magicians and the 1 Dragoon. I mean, these are pretty much straightforward and simple. Dragoon is the main card right now. Like, so many people are playing this card in their extra decks. It's so powerful. Puts in a heck of a lot of work. And especially in a Dark Magician deck, you'd be foolish not to play it. And then, of course, you got the Dark Magician. So what this gives is it gives you the ability that when you activate a spell or trap, or when a spell or trap is activated in general, you get to draw a card. But you're pretty much going to be utilising it more for that than anything else. It's just an option in the deck. You don't have to play it. Dragoon is the main go-to, in my opinion. For the Link monsters, you've got your Artemis the Magistress Moon Maiden, Link Karibo. So with your Link ones, of course, your Artemis the Moon Maiden, the idea behind this is because, again, we're not using Dark Magician, so Unduct is not an option. What you kind of want to be doing with Artemis is Selene, bring back Rod, turn into Artemis, go into Avramax. So that's pretty much one straight route that you have for that option. On top of that, you also have the ability of just going Rod into Artemis. It will help out more with the Chaos version of the deck, because straight away by going Rod into Artemis puts a Dark in the graveyard. You banish with White Wyvern Buster. White Wyvern Buster hits the field. You link Wyvern Buster plus Artemis and go into a Link 2. That then puts 2 lights in the graveyard for when you search out your Black Collapse. Your Black Collapse can then banish a White Wyvern, and straight away you've got the ability for Link 3 or climbing higher. Link Karibo, you turn any of your Drytrons into Link Karibo again, puts a Dark on the board, puts a light in the grave, and just helps you kind of Link climb higher. Plus, obviously, Link Karibo is quite nice and defensive. We've got a lot of Link 2s, so we'll start off with, of course, your staple kind of Nightmare Phoenix dealing with back row, your Verti Anaconda going into Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, but then you got Cross Sheep. Now, Cross Sheep is probably the standout Link 2 in this particular version. You do have the ability of having this point to a Fusion Monster and a Link Monster. Sorry, Fusion Monster and a Ritual Monster. So keep that in mind. Cross Sheep triggers when a monster is special summoned to its zone. It then triggers the effects depending on what it points to. So for example, if I Ritual Summon Magician of Chaos, a special summon as well, it doesn't need to be Ritual Summoned, but if I special summon back Magician of Chaos during my opponent's turn to a zone Cross Sheep points to, and Cross Sheep also points to Dragoon as well, I will be able to revive a card. Now obviously the revive is very minimal because the only card you're going to be able to revive is Magician's Rod. But if you've got an IP Masquerena, then you bring back Magician's Rod, happy day, you got free fodder. But, because it points to the Ritual and the Fusion, I'll also have the ability to draw 2, ditch 2. So again, if I was to make Cross Sheep, and then, I don't know how you would do it, but this is just an example, and it was pointing to a Ritual Monster already, and then I activated a Fusion spell to fuse to a zone it points to, I will be able to revive a card and draw 2 cards. It's not based on the card that is summoned to its zone, it's based on the cards that it points to when a card is summoned to its zone. So keep that in mind, it's very important because it means you can draw 2, ditch 2 during your opponent's turn. So if you wanted to make it more hand trap reliant, you could do. I just think it's very good in a ritual build for the Dark Magician deck in that census. If you wanted to make the revival effect a little bit more consistent, then of course you'd play stuff like Charlie Magician Girl, you'd play like all the other very, very specific cards that can be revived. But basically in this version, we're just using it to draw 2, ditch 2, which I think is great. Then carrying on for your Link 2s, you've got your IP Masquerena, because then IP Masquerena is going to lead you into either a Topologic Trispania for the back row hate, or of course your Nightmare Unicorn. So this is a 16 card extra deck that I'm showing you, but I'm telling you it's either Nightmare Unicorn or Trispania. And then of course you've also got Celine that she can go into, because Celine can then be utilised to make a Link 4, and that Link 4 can either be Access Code Appaloosa or Crusadia Avramax. IP Masquerena can also go into BLS Soldier of Chaos, because keep in mind, all you need is 3 monsters with different names. So you could technically just use 3 Drytrons. But the idea behind this is as long as you use a Magician of Chaos, you're then producing a card that can't be targeted, can't be destroyed, and protected by IP Masquerena. So the whole idea of this is that's going to allow you to utilise it in so much more fashion, because if you were to go IP Masquerena plus a Drytron that you've left on the board, plus the Magician of Chaos Max, go into a BLS, and then you've still got Eternal Soul, and circle you Eternal Soul, bring back the Magician of Chaos Max, that will then allow you to banish and pop a card, and it protects the BLS as well, because as long as they don't pop, if they pop the Eternal Soul, then, you know, all hell breaks loose. But the idea is that your BLS is just going to keep getting stronger and stronger and stronger, and then just not going to be able to clear it off. For the Link Forge, you've got the Negator Defender of Appaloosa, the Middle Ground of Avramax, who can be aggressive and defensive, and then you've got your all-out aggressor match winner of Access Code. Now again, by the time you get to Access Code, you should have like a fire, a dark, a light in the grave, so you actually have a lot of utilised abilities to just go code banish pop, banish pop, banish pop, swing for 5/3. Not to mention that, of course, if you've got the Magician of Chaos, you can use that as Link fodder and then bring it back, and it's all about looping that card. And then finally, we've got the Underworld of the Goddess of Closed World. A lot of people don't like. A lot of people are like, "Why are you playing this card?" I love it. I love it because a lot of people actually forget about the card even existing. So you put 3 cards on the board. So let's just say you put 3 Drytrons on your board, and your opponent's sitting there with any form of negate, whether it be a Dragoon, whether it be a Verte, anything like that. All you do is you go, because you don't need to declare it. It's not an activated effect. You just get your 3 monsters on the board, and if they're not about to use Dragoon's effect or anything like that, you just go, all right, cool. Link summon using your Dragoon, and they're like, what? And you're like, yeah, Link summon using your Dragoon. And they just stop there like, and then you bring out the Underworld of Goddess and go, okay. And then by that point, because you've not activated anything into a chain, they can't even go, oh, wait, I wanted to activate something there. It's like, bro, what are you going to activate? Like, you've got nothing. So, literally what I'm trying to say is if you go, summon back a Drytron, and then activate Drytron Gamma to summon back another Drytron, and they're like, right, okay, I'm going to hold this Dragoon for when they make, like, an access code, or, well, not an access code, you can't respond to it, or when they try and make this monster, or when they try and ritual summon, or anything like that, and you just go, alright, cool, Link, make Underworld of the Goddess, and they're like, oh, yeah. Forgot about that. And there's no backtrack. There's no area of them going, well, you didn't give me time to respond. It's like, what are you responding to? Like, there's nothing for you to respond to. It actually won me a couple of games at my last locals when I had dinos. And I think it's amazing in dinos. Because literally you just put dinos on the miscellaneous. They can't do anything anyway. And then you just go, alright, cool. Link summon? So, yeah, I value this card. I think this card's so good. I really, really like it. Really, really enjoy it as well. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is it for the deck. Now, like I said, this is still in beta testing. This isn't like fully finished. This isn't fully maxed out. It's just a fun kind of concept that I've put together that I'm trying to work on. So I'm actually open to any kind of feedback that you guys have. So if you've got an idea of how to fit the Chaos Engine in here, if you see cards that you feel could be cut, then by all means, please put them in the comments down below. I'm more than happy to entertain any constructive feedback on how the deck could utilise. I'm still working on it, still testing on it. So yeah, there's still a lot to be done. But it's just something that I thought I'd share with you guys so that you could see what I'm coming up with, what I'm playing around with, and how I'm trying to utilise basically Dark Magician rituals where at all possible. But for now, as absolutely always, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, smash that notification bell so you do not miss out on any more upcoming content from the channel. Of course, we are moving into the month of April, and in the month of April, of course, we do have the release for Ghost from the Past, which is probably going to be the biggest set of the year in terms of ghost rares. I don't think the cards itself in it are that amazing, but it's more the ghost hunting. So fingers crossed they are easy to kind of pull. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. As absolutely always, guys, stay safe and happy dueling.